Hey, good afternoon, guys. Okay, sorry for this. It really just depends on how my morning goes as to what I'm able to get to and when. And it looks like afternoon videos are becoming a bigger habit than I'd like for them to. Especially because I realized that I just forgot to submit and share with you your next page of notes, which is actually what I'm getting ready to go to. Because the only thing I didn't talk about yesterday was the Kennedy assassination and the conspiracy theories. So I'm going to finish up talking about page 79 and the New Frontier, and then go into page 80 and talking about LBJ, who is VP for Kennedy. He comes in and starts his Great Society plan and program. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. And again, my apologies for getting this to you so late. I'm just struggling, living on a prayer, which I'm sure many of you are as well. So I just want to say a couple of things about the New Frontier page before I leave it completely. The biggest thing that I didn't talk about yesterday that I was going to say for today is the conspiracy theories behind JFK's assassination. And so your notes talk about just a few. There's not enough room on your notes to talk about all the different conspiracy theories that are out there. There's so many, it's crazy. So let's kind of talk about just a few, some of the big ones, and we'll go from there. Okay, all right, so like I said, I'm looking at the last couple of boxes on your notes, page 79, New Frontier, okay? All right, so here's what's happening. I'm laying it all out for you. November 1963, right before JFK starts to get ready to ramp up his reelection campaign. 64 is an election year, and he's doing a couple of things in 63 to start kind of getting his name out there and everything, but usually candidates don't start campaigning hard until the beginning of an election year. So this is a pre-campaigning trip that he takes to Dallas, Texas. So November 22nd, 1963, Dallas, Texas. Texas is the home state of Lyndon Baines Johnson, which again, that is actually one of many conspiracy theories that Johnson was behind it. A lot of people say that if Kennedy had not been assassinated, Johnson never would have been president any other way. If he had run for office on his own, people just didn't see it. I don't know how much that is true, especially because there's a lot of good stuff that Johnson did push through. But anyway, that's not on debate. So here's what it is. All right, Lee Harvey Oswald, which is going to be declared by the Warren Commission the lone assassin. Lee Harvey Oswald had gotten a job at the Texas School Book Depository building I don't know if it was several weeks before or several months before, but had been working there for a while and had set himself up a sniper's nest of textbook boxes all around the 6-story building window that he was going to use to fire that day that the parade was happening. Now, if you notice from the picture, the president is in a top-down convertible. That would never happen today, 2020. So that's definitely evidence of the times. The fact that things were very much more trustworthy, and things like that didn't happen. People left their doors unlocked at night. Nobody locked their cars. Not that crime wasn't around, but it wasn't really heard of that much. People felt like they could trust one another, especially in smaller hometowns. People felt like they could trust one another. So anyway, Oswald's in the building, and he's got a very shady past, which definitely doesn't help the finger being pointed at him as being the lone assassin. He is communist, lived in Russia for a while, married a Russian, but we can't really put all the pieces of the puzzle together because when Oswald finally is arrested and he's in the basement of the Texas Police Department, he's shot and killed by Jack Ruby. And that's why there's all sorts of conspiracy theories that go around it, because there's people that claim that he was in the mob, that anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So it shows you a couple of pictures. It shows you the window of the school book depository building, and you can see where it's open there on the end to where Oswald's little sniper's nest was. And then it shows you Lyndon Baines Johnson being sworn in. Fun fact, Johnson is the first president to be sworn in by a woman. Fun fact, okay. All right, so Johnson is sworn in. He's actually sworn in while he's on Air Force One. I don't remember where he was supposed to be going that day, but it's something that we have been doing for a while. That president and vice president are never in one place when they're traveling, just in case something like this happens, that they're not both shot together. So Johnson was going somewhere else. Again, I don't remember where he was going. But the next thing that it shows is a picture that just breaks Americans' hearts. Is Jackie Kennedy. She's dressed all in black. She's got her two kids. She's got John Jr. and she has Caroline. They're two kids. And like I said, I can't remember the exact ages. I want to say 6 and 4, 5 and 3. I don't remember. It's pretty close. But anyway. So, of course, everybody sees this picture of little John Jr. saluting his daddy as his daddy's casket goes by. If you're paying attention to the picture, and you might recognize them from a picture earlier on in the PowerPoint, that off to each side of Jackie, on her right side is Ted Kennedy, who's a senator, or was a senator. And then on her left side is the youngest brother, Robert Kennedy. So you see both the Kennedy brothers there with Jackie as well. You see a picture of Oswald. And so your PowerPoint does list out a couple of the conspiracy theories. The lone assassin. There's a lot that argue that it was not just Oswald working by himself. The magic bullet theory. There's a lot of people that don't believe that it was a single bullet that was shot out that hit both Governor Conley, who was sitting in front of the car, in front of JFK. So if you watch the forensic computer video that I posted in Google Classroom, you see where the first shot missed. There were 3 shots that went out. First shot missed completely. The second shot is what goes through the back of Kennedy's neck, comes out his front, and then goes into the back of Governor Conley and comes out the front of his chest. And that is the bullet that they call the magic bullet theory, that they don't believe that it was a single shot that did it. And it was the third shot is what got Kennedy. It shot him in the back of the head. Game over, once your brains are everywhere. And the other one is the grassy knoll. Like I said, there's more than just these. And the grassy knoll is the idea that there were 2 shooters. One that was on the grassy knoll, kind of off to the side, more in front of the car. And then Oswald's in the building back behind the car. So anyway, the Warren Commission is talking about Chief Justice Earl Warren that runs the investigation to find out who and if there was a single shooter. They declare that Lee Harvey Oswald is the lone assassin, and that's it. Case closed. And there have been, and probably always will be, rumors that the case has been opened again. They're looking into it again. I don't know that there's probably ever going to not be questions about the Kennedy assassination, especially since we weren't able to finish it the way a normal case would finish being investigated, by the suspect who is shot and murdered. So anyway, I'm going to very quickly intro to page 80 in the Great Society notes, and then I'll call it a day. And if you were not on the Zoom video meeting, which I wish all of you would join, it's good times. So anyway, I'll go over your review sheet questions as well as packet. make sure that you're working on your packet and getting that stuff done. Okay. All right. So a couple of things. So LBJ comes into office. He pushes through his Great Society plan. Again, every president has their own platform, plan, agenda, etc. He comes in office. He's from Texas. He brings a lot of Southern votes with him because he will run for his own term in office. He will run in 64. And he has a lot of backing. Everybody associates him with JFK. So he's got a lot of backing. He wins the 64 election. He's president from 64 to 68. I'm not going to tell you what comes after 68. That's all stuff that's coming later. But he comes in. He is a big fan and follower of FDR. Also helps his popularity. And his number one thing is that he wants to declare a war on poverty. He wants to help those that have not seen things get any better since the Great Depression. And that's kind of his number one thing, is declaring a war on poverty. Okay, now, the big things on his agenda, his Great Society agenda, number one is what he does, and he does this in memory or in honor of JFK, and that's passing the Civil Rights Act of 64, which bans discrimination in all public places. We are chiseling away at segregation. We're trying to end it once and for all, which is a lot easier said than done, because Brown versus Board of Education 1954 is what officially ends segregation. But unfortunately, a lot of states, a lot of cities and local levels are not abiding by it, so we have to reinforce these new rulings with new laws. So, Civil Rights Act of 64 ends discrimination in all public places. You've got the Head Start program, kids in underdeveloped, I don't mean underdeveloped, I mean in poverty-stricken or low-income families, they have the opportunity to go to preschool programs that are paid for. And this is supposed to be helping get them a jump start on school, because here's the assumption. The assumption is that these children don't have anyone that's able to be at home helping them work on their alphabet and reading to them and working on colors and numbers and things like that. Like, that's the assumption, is that they might not have that kind of support at home to be ready like maybe other kids will be. So that's the Head Start program, Job Corps, job training, teaching job skills to get people. You might already have a job, but we're trying to get you a better job, better paying job. So there's the election of 64. Johnson goes up against Barry Goldwater, which, I mean, Johnson pretty much just walked away with this election because Barry Goldwater, that guy was crazy. He pretty much was saying, we should just go nuke any country that doesn't agree with what we say, you know? And so I don't know how many people are okay with, let's just start dropping nukes on countries, right? Sounds good in theory, maybe. That's a joke. All right, now let's talk about a few more parts of his Great Society program. Medicare and Medicaid, two of the biggest ones. And if you get these confused, here's what I do. Here's a little trick. Medicare is caring for the elderly, 65 and up. Medicaid is aiding those that need assistance, those that are low-income families or people with disabilities. Okay. All right, so you got Medicare and Medicaid, HUD, Housing and Urban Development, 1965, gives money for low-income housing so that people don't have to live in these slum neighborhoods, these broken down apartments. The government will help give them financial assistance to buy a good home. Spending money on artists and writers, again, to document the times. And sometimes when the economy is not doing great, again, artists and writers can't afford to just sit home and work on writing a book or painting a painting. They need something that's bringing in cash now. So building up our arts and humanities through giving grant money to these individuals. And of course, pushing education, all levels of education, through the Secondary Education Act of 1965. The other big thing, and this is kind of all part of the hippie generation, is the fact that we are worrying more about the environment. And you see writers like Rachel Carson. She is an environmentalist. She writes the book Silent Springs, 1962, and she's talking about not necessarily the whole recycle, renew, or use, but being more environmentally friendly. Don't use pesticides, things like DDT, to where if you know insects well, you'll know that there are good insects, right? And a lot of pesticides had chemicals that killed all living things, not just the bad insects, but killed everything. And even animals, like, deer that came up to try and eat corn, these pesticides would kill anything dangerous to people. I mean, it's ridiculous, So making sure that we're not using dangerous things like that, make sure that we're trying to be more environmentally friendly, the Water Quality and Clean Air Act, and then Ralph Nader starts really pushing hard to get corporations to make sure that they're not putting so much pollution out there, that they're using stacks to filter their, what's the word for it? Like any smoke or anything that's coming out. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff. And I want to stop there because we've got some major court cases coming up, and I want to spend some time going over those tomorrow, and I've already talked a lot, so I'm going to stop there. Sorry.